Hello and welcome back to the Right Hype podcast. Today, I have a special guest. Her name is Sarai, and we're going to get into some things today. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited. I'm fangirling right now. I listen to the podcast often. So whenever a new episode comes out, I listen to it. So this is exciting for me.
Oh my gosh, that just warms my heart, honestly. Listen, I'm really happy that you were able to come onto the podcast because we have been in cahoots for a minute now, ever since we met each other. I think it was either right before the pandemic. Um,
A long time ago.
yeah, do you remember that?
Yeah, I mean, we go back to like Atlanta. You remember what was it, the Black Bloggers group in Atlanta? Yeah, a long time ago.
Yo, that's a part of my brain that
Oh,
I did not remember.
yes, I have to find it. We have a whole group photo together, and we weren't even like friends, but we were in the same space at the same time.
I remember exactly what you're talking about. It was like a Black bloggers meetup. We met up in like Midtown Atlanta.
Yep.
You know, big group of us. I remember like Michaela. There was a girl named Michaela there.
Uh-huh.
Another couple girls that we met. Wow.
Yeah, right. That was, oh my gosh. I think I was like that has to be like 2018,
Yeah.
maybe. Like that was when I was big blogging. I had a fashion blog at the time, and that was when blogging was like really popular.
Yes. I cannot believe that because that's sort of like, that's exactly what we related on, like having a fashion blog, sort of
Yeah.
putting our feet into the industry.
Mhm.
Because were you always working and interested in fashion, or was that sort of your pivot?
So I was always, for the most part, I was a fashion reporter for a magazine in Atlanta called Control. And I was doing a lot of fashion reporting for them even while I was at Georgia State. And then when I got out of Georgia State, I did not find any fashion publications that were paying, especially in the Atlanta area. I was struggling. And so I ended up getting a job at the CDC, and I was working in health communications, but I was dying to get back into fashion. So blogging was like my outlet to get there.
Man, I can relate to that in so many ways. I
Yeah.
think when you know there's something inside of you that you are so hungry for that you have to
Hmm.
do, but you
Yeah.
can't get paid for it. Those are the moments where I feel like people like you and we get pushed to
Oh
new
yeah.
places like New York.
Oh yeah. Totally.
Yeah.
I think that was the main thing. I was not surprised when you said that you moved. I was like, yeah, okay. I could see that. That makes sense.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so just for the audience, because I know you, but tell us where you're from, who you are.
Yeah, okay. So I'm from Atlanta, Georgia originally, but born in Boston. My father got a job at Morehouse School of Medicine when I was a little kid. And so when I was 4 years old, we moved, me and my sibling, from Boston. But I claim Boston teams, but I always give that disclaimer because when I say I'm from Atlanta, the first thing people in Atlanta say is, "Oh, what hospital were you born in?" And I'm like, I wasn't born in any hospital. People rep their hospitals in Atlanta, and I have no hospital to link to.
I
So
love because they're very protective of their
very,
schools.
very, very protective of like, okay, you were born in, okay, you went to what? There's Grady and all other things, and so I think those are like that was like the main thing that I was just kind of like, okay, um, I need to make that abundantly clear.
I want to take a second for you to plug your brand because I know you've been cooking up so many things these past years. I've been able to attend multiple of your events.
I'd love to. Okay, so I am the founder slash chief event planner for Lux and Chic Company. We are a event planning company specifically for creatives and entrepreneurs in the New York and Atlanta area. So we planned everything from live podcast events to fashion shows to presentations. And then we also curate experimental events. And one of the big experimental events that we have through Lux and Chic that has become a baby of its own is the After Party, which is our New York Fashion Week networking event that happens in February. It is a beautiful experience between me and my Harlem's Fashion Row alumni, Jody Ann, who's also a good friend of mine. We got together and had an idea, and I reached out to her because I wanted a fashion sector for Luxury, because again, fashion is my core. And I wanted a flagship experimental something that serves creators of color in the fashion industry, because I felt like there was a lot. I felt like, especially during Fashion Week, there wasn't really a go-to thing that we could all go to and network, and or it was very big on who and who do you work for. And I know I was getting into things at the time because I was working at CNN. So that was kind of my segue to a lot of different events in the city. But I had friends who were up and coming designers or up and coming brands that were struggling to get into different things to network and do market research because their name to other people held no weight. And so we were tired of it. We were tired of seeing it. We were tired of feeling like there's always a blockage happening. And so we came up with what became the after party, and we're almost 3 years in now.
Congratulations. If you are in the New York area, please get plugged into Lux and Chic Co. Like, I'll make
Yes.
sure to tag it in the show notes. And you can get connected with Sarai and like all of her brands. But it is an experience. The after party is one that you don't want to miss in February. I look forward to it, and I leave with at least. I mean, now we're repeats, so like I'll come back and I'll see the same people who I saw the year prior. And
Yeah.
it's becoming something now where I'm expecting to run into friends. And
Yeah.
that is just a gift that you've given the community. So shout out to you, because that's no
Thank
easy
you.
feat. That's
Yeah, I think that's the thing that it's rewarding, because that's something that me and Jody wanted, where now people will come up to me and be like, "You plan events, right? We've been hearing about this thing called the after party." And it's very exciting for me because it's not necessarily the after party. I wanted it to be for y'all. Like, it has nothing to do with me. I just know that I've been in the industry. I've been there in different capacities, and I know what it's like to feel like you have to consistently advocate for yourself, especially when you don't have a big name attached to you. And then even if you have a big name attached to you, these jobs will lay you off tomorrow, right? And then you feel like you have no identity because you don't have fill in the blank heavy name attached to you anymore. And now you're wondering, who am I without this? So this is taking away the who are you, and saying that whatever you have, what's your craft, your talent, whatever you contribute to the fashion industry is valuable just because of you and not the name of what you're attached to. And so seeing people becoming friends and actually networking, and of course we do party. It's great. And uh and we're very intentional. I mean, you've RSVP'd. We have a full thing where it's like you apply, you have to fill it out, you have to give your LinkedIn, your Instagram, because we want to make sure as much as possible that when you walk in, that you know you're going to meet somebody. Everybody in the room is doing amazing things. And when you meet them, you're gonna be inspired. And so that's the biggest thing, is that we even want to take away the fluff of, oh, I just want to come because I'm trying to be a part of New York Fashion Week. It sounds dope. That's great. Maybe go somewhere else. But this is a networking experience that we want for people, and to become an even stronger force within the fashion industry, because I think together we're even stronger than separate.
Oh my gosh, I do agree. It's important for us to link up. Okay, and so when did you actually move to New York?
Okay, so I moved to New York in 2018. So while I was at CDC, struggling, trying to figure it out, trying to get into the fashion industry, I had this bright idea. I'm going to go back to school. And so I applied to grad schools, and I wanted to my big dream was to be a magazine editor. And I got accepted to Syracuse University in their master's program, which was really exciting for me. And I packed it up and I moved to upstate New York for a year. And then after I graduated, I got a job at Pop Sugar as an assistant beauty editor. And that's what moved me to New York City. And that was very full circle, because my parents met in New York City, grew up in New York City, Jamaican by both parents, but all Jamaicans, or a lot of Jamaicans, moved to New York, know the story.
There's
And
like it's like you go from Jamaica to New York and then you go somewhere else, but New York is like your passageway.
exactly. And then you move to like Atlanta or Florida. It's like one of those.
Same here.
exactly what happened. So that's what got me to New York. Yeah.
That's awesome. Okay, so Pop Sugar, how was it working at Pop Sugar? What was your highs? Are you still there?
Ooh, child, no. Oof, Pop Sugar, not to like talk bad about the publication or anything, but my experience was not as exciting. I was not there long. I did not feel like my transition there was as exciting, and there wasn't a lot of Black women. To be honest with you, I saw three on the floor, and I really struggled to get a lot of the ideas that I had pitched and accepted. Because I can't tell you about certain things that would work well for white women, but I can tell you what works well for textured hair. I can tell you what works well for women of color. And my team was all white for the most part. And then there was a girl there that I'm not sure if she identifies as Latina or Hispanic or both. But she was also very fair skinned. And so there was a lot of things that I was pitching that I wanted more like, let's talk about how some foundations are not at that time, especially they're not matching undertones. Aside from Fenty, they were the first people to do it. And so I didn't necessarily felt like we didn't align. That's all that to say. Me and Patrick did not align. But um, what worked out is that from there, I ended up rolling into. I was working there before, but I ended up working with Brandis Daniel at Harlem's Fashion Row. A little bit after that. So Pop Sugar was a little stint. It got me to New York City. So shout out to Pop Sugar for getting me here.
Oh yeah. I mean, everything's a stepping stone, right?
Yeah.
Like nothing is if you have that hustler mentality and you are so like multi-talented, everything is just building on top of each
Oh
other.
yeah. Oh yeah. And I feel like that's something we both can relate to is that when you have a vision of what you want from your life, and especially it feels like when you have the audacity to go into fashion, you have to have another level of grit and drive that you have to be okay with the multiple pivots. That even sometimes your pivot may not even be in the fashion industry. And in order to get back to the fashion industry, you have to do all types of loops, turns, spins, and be okay with that and learning the art of pivoting.
Oh yeah. It's the art of the pivot that I think has definitely like been a trend. My newest sort of trend is the art of being Delulu.
It's the
And just,
Salulu.
just like really just being like adamant about like my dreams, my wants, my desires, and not really thinking like within the box or the frame
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
that society sort of paints around for us, or even like, shoot, our parents probably didn't see this track for
Oh, yeah.
us.
Oh
But
yeah.
like, you're right, like it takes a lot of grit and it takes a lot of sort of like imagining what doesn't even exist.
And I think
What-
it's something like you even touched on me. We're both first gen. Like when you come from parents that are not necessarily from this country or even their parents, and there's a different mindset, you have to really be your own advocate in regards to the things that you want, especially when it's not tied to being a doctor, lawyer, nurse. You really have to really stand up for yourself in all areas, family, in the workforce, just in general, especially in New York City. It's a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. So came to New York, worked at Pop Sugar, went into Harlem Fashion Row. How was that experience? What did you take away from that?
Yeah, no, that was great. That honestly was a pivotal point for me in my career. And it led me to other opportunities just based off of the work that I was doing there. So I did not have an official title because funny story was I did interview for HFR as an intern. And I remember Brandis basically told me, you're in grad school, you need a job. So I got denied the internship. However, she wanted me to work with her and still communicate and still do things for HFR. And in the meantime, she would be a liaison to helping me find a job. And so I did a lot of things like at the time they had a website called In the Black that was specifically supposed to be an e-com hub for those who were within the Harlem Fashion Row and just Black and fashion sphere. And there would be specific products that were sold through their different brands. And so I was the person that was in communication with them. I was gathering images. I was writing the copy. I was working with the web designer to put it all together. And so it was basically right around the time of Pop Sugar. I remember I was in Branda's kitchen. boohoo crying about how sad I was about Pop Sugar and how horrible this experience was for me. And I didn't know how to go about things. I'm in New York City. I feel like a little fish in this huge pond. Maybe I need to go back to Atlanta. And she was just like, here, and gave me this project and was like, just focus on this project. And while I was doing that, I was also looking for jobs, but it was great. And it was my first major introduction into New York Fashion Week as well through that. I got a chance to go to their awards that they have every September. And it was great. At the time that I was there for HFR, it definitely was a saving grace for me, I have to say. And I end up meeting people through that who are gonna be my friends forever.
That's so
Yeah.
beautiful. I don't know if everyone on this podcast knows what HFR is. So, in your eyes, like, how would you describe Harlem Fashion Row?
Yeah. So I describe Harlem's Fashion Row as a community, as a hub, if you will. Like there's the CFDA, there's HFR, or Harlem's Fashion Row. So Harlem's Fashion Row was created to basically be the voice for Black people in the fashion industry and open doors and get them into spaces they're not necessarily in, build community, etc. And I'm sure Brandis could explain it way better than I can, but I believed basically in the brand, especially like at that time, because even outside of being a designer, I'm not a designer, but I'm in media and I know how difficult it still is for me in media as a Black woman. I don't always see people like me. And it's a narrative that continues to be the same year after year. And so I'm support for anything Black and anyone that's advocating for Black people, especially in the fashion industry, because we know we drive culture and other people tend to make a lot of money off of the culture that we set. And so I did appreciate like the mission that HFR had of being a liaison for these designers.
It's so, yeah, I thank you for like diving into that a little bit because there's so many like institutions out there that I don't even think are, folks know about that could be a resource. I mean, Brandice is like, she's become to me like a sort of like an icon to look towards. Her organization's like a North Star, I would say, even in like the fashion industry, because there have been, many organizations that have come before HFR and even after HFR, but I don't think that they've been able to serve the community and like penetrate the like upper edges of fashion, the upper echelon of fashion, the way that HFR is going about it. And it's I don't know, it's really cool to watch from the sidelines. And I'm sure it was even amazing to have a personal relationship with Brandis.
Yeah, that it was great. I mean, I don't think I even understood the significance of it at the time. But I will say that especially in my transition to New York City, I definitely owe her a lot because she definitely kept me afloat while I was trying to figure out New York City. People don't talk about when you're a transplant, transitioning into New York City is not easy. It looks glamorous and it looks exciting, but it's extremely stressful when it wants to be. And although I have my family up here, I have people to lean on, but getting into media in particular was different from what I was experiencing in the South. It's a slower pace. The deadlines aren't as fast. They're a little bit kinder. And here was like hard hitting, hard hitting. And what do you do? And who are you with? And it was very much, I felt like I had nothing to stand on. And so it was cool. It was cool having that experience to just see her work and just even having moments of just being at her former home. I don't think she still lives there, but her former home. And Brandis and I don't talk as much anymore, but I still have a lot of respect for her and a lot of the just what she did for me, considering she's a very busy woman. So just having that was great. That was a great moment for me coming into the New York space.
Nice. What what from like your first year in New York was like probably the craziest thing that happened to you?
Oh, that is a great experience. You know what I will say was a and it's gonna sound like this is far out, but like the craziest experience of transition that like where I was like, I might just go home. Honestly, I struggled with being on time. When I first moved to New York, I mean, I did not. There will be moments where like the train stops running or the train is stuck in the tunnel. And it was just different things that I really could not seem to get on time for the life of me for some odd reason or another. And I lived between the AC line. And it would take forever for me to like, it depends. Like sometimes it was quick and I was boom, I was at work, cool. And then there were times where I was extremely late and I just couldn't figure it out. I couldn't figure it out for the life of me. I didn't know what, I did not understand fully the train system. I think that was probably the hardest thing for me. I lost a lot of weight because I was walking everywhere because I didn't know how to maneuver. I don't have the right apps to use, or I didn't know, okay, like if this is like not running, I can get off the platform and cross over to this train, and then this train is still going to take me to. Now it's quick for me, but at the time I was a fish out of water. I didn't know what to do. I'm hot on the platform, sweating. I see a rat run by. I just want to cry. I was not having it. That first year, me and transportation was not mixing. It was not mixing.
Yo, like I can't tell you how many times I get on a train thinking I'm going one way and I'm going the opposite. And you're like,
It's so embarrassing, right? It's like where and then you gotta act like you know, like, nah, I know what I'm doing. But you are lost.
it's really, yeah. I did an internship for Victoria's Secret like many years ago, like
Mhm.
for pandemic. And that's how I actually learned the transit system because they had me running errands. And I was taking the R, the W, the 2, the 3, the 4, 5, the AC, the J. And I was like, oh, I was really like having to get things down. I even had to go to
Yeah.
Jersey. I had to learn the path.
What? They took you to Jersey too? What the world?
Yeah, it was a humbling. I always identify with Andy from The Devil's Wears Prada because
Mm-hmm. Oh
I
my God.
like I was just out in these streets running errands, getting text messages, and there was a lot of nights I went to sleep watching that show, that movie.
Yes, like isn't that a real thing? Because I think that's why in the fashion industry we resonate with that movie so much and why that movie will always be timeless is because it wasn't exaggerated. That is a real thing. Honestly, I feel like it should be abolished. I don't think anybody deserves that type of treatment, but yet we all have stories.
We do, and I will say that like the best thing about the opportunity, like it was grueling work, but if you know how to network and connect and work your butt off, they
Mm-hmm.
recognize it, and there
Mm-hmm.
more people are willing to take a chance on you when they can see that you can work, you can do it.
Mm-hmm. I agree. Being a good communicator and being genuine about your communications. Don't just talk to somebody because you want something from them, but you're just genuinely having a conversation. I will say that has landed me a couple of things of just talking, and I'm not looking for anything. And someone will go, "Oh, you know what? Let me call so and so," and it's like, "Oh, thank you. I did not know that was gonna happen to me."
Yes. Listen, and I know you're very connected, so I'm sure it's really like it's not just your hard work because I know you're a hustler, but like you're just a good person, and people these days just want to work with just
Yeah.
really dope, nice people.
Yeah. No, I think that's the biggest thing for me is honestly, I grew up in a household that our home was a hub for a lot of people to just come over, chill. And so because of that, I just love people and I love genuine people.
Mhm.
And we may not be the biggest friend, but when I see you, you're gonna get the same attitude that my best friend is gonna give. Where if I see you, it's how you doing? Okay, that's great. Um, if my spirit don't take you and it look like I don't know you not gravitating to me, I'm gonna leave you alone. I'm not even gonna be like, oh, hey friend. I'm gonna leave you right where you at. That's cool. Do you be over there? But I think that's the biggest blessing is that the amazing people that I've met, if I can know somebody that is gonna help somebody that I know level up even more, I will figure it out because I think you're a genuine person and I want to see you win.
Yes. Yes. So we talked a little bit about your background, your passions. We're gonna still like talk about those things, but I want to talk more about culture.
Okay.
This is the right hype, and we talk about culture a lot. In my last episode, I finally sort of like gave it a definition and a name.
Mhm.
So I wanted to hear from you, like, what's your definition of culture?
Oh, that is so broad. My definition of culture. Oh gosh. You know what it is? I think it's definitely subjective, of course. It's based on your region, it's based on where you are. If I want to take it to a smaller space, let's say New York and New Jersey area, when I think about culture, I think about the origin of the culture, right? There's always an origin to how the culture is formed. Like, for example, Savant Studios, the trucker hat. That was a cultural moment in itself where everybody's wearing this hat. I forgot which publication did an article on it, but it was everybody that was wearing Savant Studios hat. Like, if I was in Atlanta and saw you wear a Savant Studios hat, I know you touched Brooklyn one time this summer. Something made you buy that hat. And so I think about I think when I think culture, I think there's an origin to innovation. And through that, there is a group think of people that continue to cultivate what was started. So so how I define culture is more so it's a group of people that are full of innovators and continue the origin of what has been started, if that makes any sense. So that's how I think about it, even on different levels. When you think about in Atlanta or like in Atlanta, when Outkast at Atlanta has something to say, and you see this nature now of Atlanta and Atlanta music and where it is now. And now hip hop trap is a huge part of Atlanta DNA. And music in general was always big in Atlanta, but it took one person to say, like, listen, you're gonna pay attention to my city. And that culture kind of like came about within itself because of the origin of that. So that's
Yeah,
how I define it.
I love that. I mean, I love how you brought up Atlanta because I feel like growing up in Atlanta, there Atlanta was sort of just like under the radar. It was known for probably like food and
Mm-hmm.
music. But it wasn't until I would probably argue when the Migos started pushing their sound like heavy
Yeah.
and the Migos sound transitioned to pop. That's when like everyone started paying attention more to Atlanta. And I think it
Mm-hmm.
really put the culture of Atlanta on a bigger stage.
Mm-hmm.
To this day, I feel like now Atlanta has its identity. Like there's this sort of ideas that comes to your mind when you hear the
Yeah.
word Atlanta. And that's
Yeah.
all because of the culture that was, to your point, cultivated organically in that space that was
Mm,
then like later amplified and influenced a lot of the stuff that we still do today and that we listen.
exactly. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I think that's the best example of talking about just like music. It takes one person to have the Lulu or audacity for someone to start cultivating and creating what would become a cultural thing. So I think that's amazing when you think of culture in that way and how it's so heavily influenced. And so let's remember who does it. Black people do it first. I'm just saying, in this country. And so, yeah. So I think that's just like cultural is it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah. I feel like one thing that I've been eyeing is just like the culture is shifting right now. I
Yeah.
feel like the culture of everything is moving, like
Mhm.
from fashion to music to politics to like travel, just like everything is sort of shifting.
Mhm.
In your sort of pocket, your, area, like the places that you go, the people that you see, the things that you're talking about, what are the things that you're currently thinking about, obsessing over? What's on your mind as it pertains to the culture?
Oh my gosh. Well, you know, on my mind is it's two major things outside of media, and that's fashion and that's events. And I agree with you. There's a reset button that is being pressed right now in general. And I think people are officially out of that age of COVID. And now you find yourself in a whole new space where the things that we were doing before, something people are looking for something different. Something's got to give. Like for example, I was paying attention to Fashion Week. I was just in London for Fashion Week, and I was even looking at some of the collections that are just coming out, like Bottega Veneta's like collection, that spring summer 25 collection is chef's kiss. Like that's what you call luxury. Everything is tight, pristine. It looks like the fabrics have weight. It looks like it's going to appreciate and value. Like I think that's what people want to see again. It's not these brands that look like, even though there's like a juxtaposition to it, because there's some brands that look like they pull from Fashion Nova. And of course, Fashion Nova is pulling designs from other designers and creating dupes, because we know that's a thing. But some of the brands, they don't look like luxury anymore. It looks like it's fast fashion in a way. And even you question some of the production of some of the items and how it's being produced. And so in my sphere of things, I am paying attention to, with this reset, going back to, one, slower fashion, two, I think this whole mass production of things in general, there is a slow, I'm finding people want to be slow again and kind of go back to quality over quantity. And so even with events, it's not necessarily, I'm even scaling down with my event company, or even the major New York Fashion Week event that I do, and thinking about the quality of the event. It's not necessarily how many events are pumped out or how many people come, but who's impacted. Do people get what they need from this event? And aesthetically, is it pleasing? Is the message tied? Even if I'm planning it for someone, is everything there? Because I think at one point, especially after COVID, it's like Jamaicans say, your skin catch fire. It's like you want to just like go and do, like you got to go to everything. You got to do everything. Now with Fashion Week, I'm okay with 2 shows. I don't have to hop to every single show and feel like I need a nap in between and go to every single after party. Whatever I get invited to, get invited to. Whatever I don't, I don't. What's for me is for me. And I think everybody's feeling that just in life in general, of this, like, okay, let's press the restart button. Let's recalibrate and see about how are we going about things and how intentional do we want to be about the things that we do moving forward.
Yes, so well said. Like, down to this idea of just quality. I don't think that we are in a position to live as in excess as much as I think it was desired right off of the heels of the pandemic. People were trying to be a lot more indulgent.
Yeah.
And I think right now it's like a balance of those things, because I think with indulgence comes like saturation, and saturation not because like everything that's being pumped out is quality. I think saturation for the sake of just filling space, filling up time, trying to be seen. So when you do come across brands, or like your brand, like thinking about how can I level up by like being more strategic and making more strategic moves, I think that's really where I think you open yourself up to imagine like something a little bit different but better. And then everyone else gets to sort of experience your creativity live, or gets to experience those fruits in a different way than they're used to experiencing that. And it evolves with the time, because you're right. Like, I think Matthew Blazy, with this like recent collection, he allowed people to sort of see themselves in like in that collection, no matter who you are. Like, there's something in there for you, and it's guaranteed quality. I mean, that brand doesn't even like have an Instagram. They don't even do like, they don't spam timelines. They just let their quality speak for itself. And I think that's that's like the best way to build a brand, is off the strength of quality and word of mouth.
Yeah. No, I think that's honestly, I think that's the best way to go moving forward as of right now. Like, I was just reading, I'm a huge fan of style.com on IG, and the stuff that they do over there. And that's where I get my fashion news. And I recently saw that the Row did their collection and wanted no cameras. And I'm also loving that no camera. You can see it online when it goes live. but leaving the experience for the attendee to see. And it's something about that even is bringing back some type of slowness where you're not going to catch the show anywhere else. You have to be there in order to see, to experience, to understand. Because the fashion show is like a theatrical production. There is a fullness to it that's telling a story of the production of the collection that's being put out. So I will say that it's the same thing even in regards to events now, where it's not necessarily having every single human being in the room. It's about who is this for, what is this about, and how can we give you the best quality possible and the best messaging. And so I truly think that's just the best. Why not slow down? Take some
I
time.
mean, like, I know this is the right hype, but like, I think that is the right type of hype, right? Is
Yeah.
the stuff that like, it's honestly looks ridiculous when you see a bunch of people just like having their phones. Like, even myself, if I'm going to a show, there may be like a couple of looks that I'm like, oh, I want to get that.
Yeah.
But outside of that, I really try and like just try to experience the show the way that the designer and the team curated the show to be experienced. And unless that was done through a phone, you're rarely getting like that full immersive experience that they want you to have. So that pivot is really, really strong. And I think a lot of brands are going to realize that there's like a need to go mass, but there's also a really big need to go niche and deep and be more curated and like foster those smaller bonds instead of trying to appeal to the masses and end up really appealing to nobody.
I'm telling you, I think it's interesting. There's this quote by this man, Tim Elmore. I met him when I was in high school, and he was a leadership coach. And he used to always say, be a river and not a flood. And that used to always stick with me, even in high school, of when you're a flood, you're all over the place, you're spread thin. But when you're a river, you move with a slowness. You have a flow to you. And with being a river, of course, you can directly hit the things. If there's a rock there, you're directly hitting that rock. And so you're tackling things as they come versus a river when you're just going, you know what I mean? It's fast and it's like the tortoise and the hare. And so I think about that sometimes when I think about uh, where we were and what we need to do moving forward in regards to things in life, in regards to fashion, in regards to the events that you attend, etc. It's it's just something that I'm really advocating for. And it's hard for me. I mean, full time on the media side, I'm a social media manager. So let me tell you, it is hard sometimes to even put down my phone, much less because it's my job. I have to digest what's going on. I have to see the trends and see what works best for the company that I work for to make sure that they have the best of the best. And I'm on the shopping e-commerce side for them. And so I'm consistently looking, consistently trying to see what's going on with competitors doing. And so even with that, I have to remind myself after a certain time, put the phone on D&D, put it to the side, because I also have my brand outside of my 9 to 5s. And so it can be extremely hard when you're balancing your 9 to 5, 5 to 9, or even being a full-time entrepreneur to just be like, okay, whatever you did for this time block, you did. And now respect the slowness even in your own time, because there's no way that you're going to be as successful if you're just consistently going. You're going to burn yourself out eventually.
All right, so we're gonna slide into the hype seat. I'm going to say a word, and you're going to give me your thoughts on it. And don't hold back.
Okay. Ooh, I'm not nervous. Okay. Okay. I'm excited.
All right, the first word is black fashion.
Oh, okay. The first thing that comes to mind with black fashion. Ooh, the first thing that comes to mind, I don't know why this is coming to mind right now, but the first thing that comes to mind when I think black fashion is Beth Ann Hardison. I don't know why it's like in my head right now, since this is that like rapid fire, only because I was having a conversation with somebody about the contributions that she has made um to the fashion industry and and advocating, just advocacy and everything that she's done. I'm a fan of Beth Ann Hardison, and if I'm correct, she lives in Brooklyn. And if I see her, I'll be like, I'm a big fan. I love you. So yeah. But in general, when I think Black fashion, I think culture driven. I think about there's amazing people, and when people say Black fashion, it's bigger than you think. It's just not represented enough. But there's a lot of people in Black that are in fashion that are doing amazing things in this world that deserve to get as highlighted as much as possible.
I agree. I second that. One of the things that I constantly say is, wow, Black people are so creative. Like, where did you get the idea? There's this one girl on like Instagram, and she takes pictures with like household appliances. Like, she had a toilet
What?
purse. She legit had a toilet purse.
How is that possible? That's an artist. That is an artist. Because
Like,
what? I need to look that up. I've never seen that before.
she just, I think she had a fire hydrant as a purse one time. Like, the way
Wow.
that the way that Black fashion operates, it's just on a different level. And I agree, there's not a platform for it. And I don't even think many of us know how to monetize it or turn that into a career to sustain ourselves. And, there's also debates on whether, you should even be doing that. Like, does that ruin the art? Does that take away from, the artist and like who they are? But I just feel like they're like the limits are not there. They're just go, 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 go. And
It's universal. It's amazing.
it's
Yes,
crazy.
it's amazing. I love it. I think, you know what? I thank God every day. I'm extremely biased. I have no problem with that of being Black. I think it's the best gift you could ever experience in life because you can't help but be Black and proud, especially when you see creatives and see like the different things that are happening. It's just like, well, shucks, like it's incredible. Some things that I see people come up with, I'm even trying to fathom. I would never come up with something like that. Like, how do you put this together or create this event or just different things that I see that I'm just kind of like, but you know what? It's a truly an honor to be Black and to be Black within the fashion space. And I think that's something that's sacred and that people should hold dearly.
Yeah. Yeah. My last thing is I think there needs to be like a Black innovation hub
Mm.
slash just a place for the weirdest, kookiest, crazy
Yeah,
ideas to come together and like almost like a museum or like a circus and just
I love that. Like a big science fair, how they used to do like in elementary school where they had a science fair, like a
yeah,
huge science fair. That's a good idea. I think you
honestly.
started something.
Okay, next
Wow. That
okay, next topic is gatekeeping. What are your thoughts on that?
Ooh. Well, that's how the after party got started in the first place is gatekeeping. I cannot stand gatekeeping. And let me just say this. When somebody gets into, because we're talking fashion right now, right? When someone gets into the fashion space and you get to a certain caliber in your career, it it would behoove you to make sure that you bring whoever is below you up. And I think some people get very self-centered in their journey. And when they get there, they gatekeep it for themselves in fear that someone else is going to come up and take what they have going on or invade their clique or their circle when as easy as God puts you in something is as quickly as you can get out of it. And
Yeah.
so let's be mindful when you're in a space and and you get to where God has placed you where you should be. Let's use that power. With Spider-Man, use that power, great responsibility. Okay. So I don't subscribe to gatekeeping. I don't even gatekeep the outfits that I wear. Granted, I understand sometimes you want to keep it exclusive. You don't want to share everything. I get that. I do get that where it's like, oh, girl, I got this one place. But it's like, I don't want to share my favorite place next to everybody Because it's like when, like on TikTok, for example, when someone's saying something, it's like, nah, you done messed it up for everybody. Now you done shared the
Yeah.
secret spot. I get it. There's some things you want to hold sacred to yourself, but on a career standpoint, at least, mainly more so in a career standpoint, I would say it's easy to be focused on what we have going on, but let's be mindful as we're going through our journey and not be selfish with where we are, because I'm sure when we were in the spaces that we were running around intern Victoria's Secret, or I'm running around as a writer in Atlanta for Control magazine, I would have wanted somebody to say, hey, this is what you need to do to get here. And I'm going to tell you how. I wish that I had that. I had to come through a whole bunch of loopholes to get to where I am now. And if someone would have said, no, go that way, you're going left and you need to go right, that would have made life so much easier for me.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, I always tell people, like, if you ever feel like you have that mindset where you're ultra protective of your role at some job, or you're ultra protective of at your work environment because, someone of color or someone is coming in and you feel like they're going to take your spot,
Mm-hmm.
turn that mindset of scarcity into an abundance mindset and
Mm-hmm.
think, you have everything that you need to be successful. They chose you for a reason. You're here for a reason.
Exactly.
How about you invite that person actually to lunch, get to
Right.
know them, and
Right.
like build a bridge, because they'll likely have your back. I think about like the morning show on Apple where Jennifer
Oh, yeah.
Aniston's character basically tells Reese Witherspoon's character, like, we're women. Like, it's a moment where all the men in the workplace think that they're powerful and they can't be touched. And it's like, versus a woman putting down another woman, she decides to elevate her. And watching that show, I actually just watched it last night, so that's why it's fresh on my mind. But just watching that made me realize, like, like if more of us just had a little bit more guts to like
Yeah.
uplift the people who want our jobs,
Mm-hmm.
they're more likely going to be the ones that actually help us potentially even keep our jobs.
I've been reading Elaine Welteroth's book.
Mm.
It's a really good read. I really recommend for people to read it. But she was talking about her transition to Teen Vogue and becoming a Black editor at Teen Vogue, which is a huge deal for those who remember at the time, and how Eva Chen was the person who recommended her for the role and was not taking no for an answer, to be honest with you. And I think about it of, had Eva Chen not reached out to Elaine, I mean, so many barriers were broken from Elaine becoming EIC at Teen Vogue at the time. So that a lot of your favorite editors probably wouldn't have the opportunities they have now had that not happened, because from what I understand, that she was the first Black EIC at Condé. And I mean, how old is Condé Nast, right?
Yeah.
So just thinking about that, I think it's important that, and I don't even think, and maybe Eva Chen did know, like, I'm going to leave legacy. And I think that's the better thing to think about, is not necessarily someone's going to take over something. Just like you said, you have the tools that they hired you for a reason. If someone is going to come take your job, then that job does not deserve you anyways. So what, hey, you know what I mean? Versus, let me continue to create legacy and make sure that my work does not go in vain. And the person that comes in is also doing the same amazing, even better work than I'm doing. And when I leave, that person is going to hopefully bring somebody else in. And I think that's how you open doors, is having that mindset of, I'm going to leave legacy wherever I go, that you're going to see my footprint in something.
Love that. That's really compelling, and I'm gonna definitely be thinking about that after this conversation.
Yeah.
Um, okay, so last question in the hype seat: Fashion Week. What are your thoughts on Fashion Week right now?
Oh, and it depends on the city. I feel like New York Fashion Week, there is a change happening with New York Fashion Week right now. Remember that restart button we were talking about? I think New York City is definitely doing some things, and I'm interested in seeing what's going to happen with New York Fashion Week in the next couple of years. Um, I don't know what kind of reset is happening. I can't tell you if it's good or bad, but there is definitely a reset, especially after they left Spring Studios. There's a lot of it's a lot of different things happening right now, even down to at one point it felt like there was this it felt like a tension between influencer and editor and who gets invited to what, and I think that's even changing a little bit now, and just seeing where things are going. They're being a little bit more selective, who gets an invitation to a certain event. Like there's certain changes that are happening, and some of the New York Fashion Week events weren't even happening in the same place like they used to catch all of the shows back to back at the same spot, and now they're in different places. Was it correct me if I'm wrong, was it Ralph Lauren that had their show in the Hamptons, if I'm correct? I believe it was Ralph Lauren. Fact check me on that, but there's different things that are happening now. So I will say, when I went to London, I will say London changed my perspective even more, because London, when you go to New York Fashion Week and the people at the door are like, okay, what's your name, and where London, as long as you got that invitation, that was your approval in. And so that pre-process happens way before. And I didn't realize that, because in New York, you can get an invitation, then you got to email and say, I'm going to come, and RSVP, and you got to get the confirmation email that you are attending. When there was none of that, it says invite in brackets in the subject line for so-and-so show. All you do is when you get there, you show the invitation, because they vetted you out already. Like that's already, if you got the invitation, you got vetted out. There's no need for any extra additional steps. Are you coming or not? And I and I appreciated that. I think also on the stance of sustainability, I think that in regards to Fashion Week, I think the more respective fashion weeks are going to be the ones that are supporting sustainable brands even more, because I think people are starting to get really tired of the results of fast fashion. And even your slower luxury brands are also contributing to what's going on in regards to pollution with clothing items. So I truly believe that after a while, people are not going to be more so paying attention to being seen and being in the mix, but really trying to see what's the quality and what's really happening in the fashion world, and really doing market research. So all that to say, with Fashion Week, I think, again, that reset button, I think we need to pay attention to it, especially with New York next year, February and beyond. What exactly is going to happen in regards to the calendars, and who is being showcased, and where they're happening, and who's even attending at this point, especially for New York. Is there going to be a change? Is New York even going to be the number one anymore? Is it going to be another city? I know that other cities are starting to have their fashion weeks. I know at one point there was an article, people were paying attention to what's going on in Atlanta. I know Atlanta has their own fashion week. From my understanding, Chicago is supposed to be happening. And so it makes you wonder, like, what's gonna happen. I still feel like New York is gonna be the hub. I think I'll forever be a thing, but I'm interested in seeing what's gonna happen next.
Yeah, I would agree. I think New York will will remain an institution as
Mm-hmm.
the, you know, um, for all intents and purposes, like the U.S. fashion hub. But LA Fashion Week has been growing and has been getting a lot more traction, as
Mm-hmm.
some brands are like choosing to show in LA and in
Mm-hmm.
Hollywood. Um, and I'm happy that you got to go overseas and see Fashion Week from a different lens. I have
Mm-hmm.
yet to go to London. I need to go to London. I would love to do
Do
London Fashion Week.
gotta
So
plan a trip. We gotta make it happen.
I was gonna
We gotta-
say, I usually plan my trips around Fashion Week, unfortunately. So that would be a perfect time to plan a trip, because
Yeah.
um it's usually like it falls on my birthday, and then I'm like, well, let's just travel, and then it's
Yeah.
like, let's go to London or Paris or Milan, because there's gonna
Yeah.
be something happening in one of those cities
Exactly.
during September.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
That's gonna be great. I think that's a perfect idea, because it really, sometimes you got to get out, and then it pushes you to level up because going to London now, I have a different perspective of what I want to do here. And
Mm,
so I think it's a great way to go and see what they're doing in other countries. I would love to go to Paris next year and experience Paris Fashion Week and see what's going on that lens, because they have their own culture going on there and different trends that I was even noticing that I'm like, something to pay attention to. What's going on over here? So yeah, we're gonna have to make that trip happen. We'll be in
listen, cue up. Okay, well, that is it for the hype seat. What is a piece of advice that has changed your life?
Oh, you know what? There's three things that stick to me, and they're all one is from my dad, one is from my mom, and one is from my grandmother. And I probably will have it tattooed on my body one of these days. But one of them was my dad used to always say this of doing things with the spirit of excellence. And at the time when I was a kid, I always saw that as you just want me to do more schoolwork. And like, what do you mean do things with you just want me to do even more schoolwork. But as I've gotten older, I've realized what exactly that meant. And I think that's also coming from a Caribbean culture of when you're doing something, you're going to do it the best. If I'm going to be an event planner, I'm going to be the best event planner. If I'm going to be a social media manager, I'm going to be the best. And so coming into a mindset of there's gonna be nobody else that can style me. Like I'm gonna be here when I get to where I need to be. And that's kind of it's an encouraging thing to you gotta have drive is really essentially what he was saying is have that drive. Whatever you say you're gonna do it and do it well. And so that's something that has always stuck to me even when I got to college and when I moved to New York is if I'm gonna pursue this, and that even kind of tied to the name of my company, even being Luxe and Chic, is that when you experience this event, you're going to experience luxury. You're going to feel chic. It's going to be the top of the top of the event that you've experienced, even to a smaller level. Um, the other thing that I got was from my mother, and my mom used to always say, "You have to live life good." And I kind of understood that a little bit, but again, a lot of these quotes touched me when I crossed over the threshold of 19 and going into college and getting older. And when my mother meant by that is life is short. And there's a lot of things when we wake up in the morning, we can think, I know as soon as I wake up, I think about the 99 things that need to happen better. I need a bigger spot. I want a husband. I want kids. Like you start thinking about, oh, my career needs to be bigger. Lexa Chic needs to be global, worldwide. Like you start thinking about all the things that need to happen and you forget about what's happening right now. You're living, you're breathing. We're having a conversation, or I have podcasts. Like there's so many good things that are happening in the now and being present with your now and feeling good about it. God gave us life, gave us breath. And so having that, I think that's something that my mom really tried to push is just be grateful and be happy in the now. And then the last thing was from my grandmother, Mavis Thompson, and she used to always say, Sarai, what can you do? And I never knew what that meant. But basically saying if something happens in life, i.e. a layoff, something happens with your tires, why stress about it? If there's nothing that you can do about it, don't stress. If there's something you can do about it, you do it. Things happen in life. Unfortunately, there's moments where life really sucks. But what can you do? You just do your best and you can't stress because it already shows medically you stress, it's going to lead to other health problems. And my grandmother lived until, oh gosh, I think my grandmother was 97, I believe. And I really feel like a lot of that was because she went off the philosophy of, hey, why am I going to stress about it? If I can't figure it out, I'm not stressing about it. So, yeah.
I love that. Those are so beautiful and all from your family, which is really
Yeah,
nice, very touching. Thank you
yeah.
for sharing your experiences with everybody. Thank you for giving us your opinions on culture and fashion and events. Please, if you are listening, go follow Lux and Chic Co. Go
Yes.
follow Sarai. She is going to be tagged and reach out to her, say hello. And if you're in the New York area, please come to one of her events. You'll most
Yes.
likely meet
Come
there.
on. Come on.
we
Come on.
are
all invites. Come on, come on.
We are wishing nothing but abundance and quality,
Yes,
luxury, and
yes.
success.
Yes. And thank you, Gavon. Like this podcast is amazing. I am so proud to be your friend and just all the things that you do. This podcast is amazing. I'm fangirling. I have no shame. I don't care. This is a great podcast. Honestly, honestly, it is good stuff. I love it.
Thank you so much. And it is an honor to have you on it. So thank you.
Thank you.